AITA for cutting off my fiancée because she believed my brother framed me for cheating? I was 29 years old. I hadn't even met my ex-fiancée, Olivia, yet. It all started with my brother Ethan and his ex-girlfriend. Ethan wasn't just dating this girl. He was completely obsessed. We're talking a dangerous level of fixation. They had been together for 3 years and were already planning their entire future. The ring was chosen. The whole family knew because he wouldn't stop talking about how perfect she was. She was pretty, I guess, but nothing exceptional in my eyes. To Ethan, however, she was a divine gift to humanity. He literally organized his weekends around her work schedule and got genuinely offended if she wanted to go out with her friends instead of him. With hindsight, Chloe never seemed as invested as he was. During family dinners, she was politely distant. She constantly looked at her phone and always had an excuse to leave early. Ethan made grandiose romantic gestures, surprise trips, expensive jewelry, and incredibly elaborate dates, and she just looked bored. But Ethan was blind to all of that. The only person who saw clearly through this game was my sister, Sarah. She is 2 years younger than me. She's a nurse at the county hospital and has always been the most grounded person in our family. Sarah understood it from day one. She said there was something fake about her, as if she were playing a role instead of being herself. That girl manipulates Ethan like a puppet, Sarah told me one day. And when she's done with him, it's going to be very ugly. Then came the family barbecue from hell. It was supposed to be our annual 4th of July barbecue. The whole extended family, the neighbors, the usual crowd. Ethan had been talking about it for weeks because he planned to propose. At first, everything was going normally. Uncle Jim was telling his lame dad jokes. My cousin was showing off on the volleyball court, and Ethan was true to himself, excessive as always. Then the moment arrived. When the noise started to die down, Ethan got down on one knee in front of everyone. We were all waiting for the answer, and then she did something unexpected. She completely cracked. She stood up and dropped this bomb in front of everyone. I can't do this. I don't love you, Ethan. I have never loved you. I tried to force myself because you're a good person, but I can't marry someone when I have feelings for someone else. The yard went totally silent. Even the neighbor's dog stopped barking. Ethan looked at her as if she were speaking a foreign language. Then she looked me straight in the eye and pronounced the words that would practically ruin my life. I'm in love with your brother. I had absolutely no idea what to say. We had never had more than polite conversations during family gatherings. That's all. But he completely lost his mind. He started screaming that I had betrayed him, that I was sneaking around behind his back, that I was trash, and a whole bunch of other delusional stuff. I tried to explain that I had literally no idea how she felt, that I had never encouraged her, that I had never thought of her that way, but it was useless. In his head, I had stolen his girlfriend. Period. Dad tried to calm the situation, explaining that I had nothing to do with it, that she had simply developed feelings over time. But Ethan wasn't listening to anything. He left in a rage, tires screeching, a complete dramatic exit. Chloe left right after, crying, apologizing to everyone. Sarah was the only one to come talk to me afterward. It's not your fault, she told me. That girl was never going to marry him, and deep down, he knows it. It should have stopped there. A girl realizes she isn't in love, makes a clumsy confession, and everyone moves on. But Ethan, he made it his personal mission to destroy me, and that's where it gets really twisted. After Chloe's confession, I genuinely thought Ethan would calm down after a few days. We had argued before. What brothers haven't argued? And he had always ended up moving on. The first thing Ethan did was harass Chloe for about a week. She showed me some messages later. Yes, she tried to contact me after the barbecue incident, but I cut it short immediately. Ethan sent her about 30 messages a day. It ranged from begging her to come back to the most intense insults. It was concerning behavior. When she finally blocked him, that's when he turned his attention to me. At first, it was just classic petty brotherly revenge. He would accidentally eat the food I left in my parents' fridge when I visited. He conveniently forgot to pass on messages when people called the house for me. Petty little things that I ignored for the most part. But then, he became more creative, and that's where I should have understood that it wouldn't stop. He attacked my social circle first. He left passive-aggressive comments on my social media posts. Things like, "That's funny coming from you," or "interesting opinion from someone who." He'd then delete them before I could take a screenshot. My best friend, David, was the first to act weird with me. We had been close since high school. We played on the same college basketball team. We hung out together every weekend, and suddenly David became distant, answering in monosyllables, refusing my invitations. I finally cornered him and asked him what his problem was. It turned out Ethan was telling him I had been talking about him behind his back for years. David believed him because, and I quote, "Why would your own brother lie about something like that?" It became Ethan's signature method. He told people I had said horrible things about them, always with just enough specific details to make it seem credible. None of it was true, but he knew exactly which button to push with each person. But what really got to me was my job. I was working in a small tech company right after college. About 30 employees in total. Great job, good pay, a nice boss who treated everyone like adults. I was even in line for a promotion to team leader, which would have been huge for someone with only 2 years of experience after graduation. Then weird things started happening. My boss mentioned in passing that he heard I was interviewing at other companies, which was false. A colleague asked me why I had told people the company was poorly managed and about to go bankrupt. I had never said that. It took me months to figure out that Ethan was calling the office pretending to be different people, a recruiter I had supposedly spoken to, a concerned friend regarding comments I had made, even a fake client claiming I had been unprofessional. This person literally created fake identities to sabotage my career. The promotion was given to someone else. My boss started behaving differently with me. The whole office vibe changed, and I didn't understand why everyone suddenly saw me as an arrogant and disloyal employee who was ungrateful to the company. When I confronted Ethan about it, he played dumb. "I don't see what you're talking about, man. Maybe people are just seeing the real you now," he said with that smug smile that made me want to lose my temper. I tried going to my parents, thinking they would make him listen to reason. Big mistake. They had already bought into his narrative that I was a manipulative person who had stolen his girlfriend and was now playing the victim. My mother even said, "Well, honey, maybe it's karma for what you did to his relationship." What I did? I literally did nothing except exist in the same family as a girl who had feelings I neither asked for nor wanted. But according to my parents, Ethan was the real victim. I was just creating drama and had to take responsibility for my actions. The only person who saw through Ethan's nonsense was Sarah. She would call me after family dinners where Ethan played the victim, telling me not to listen to their garbage. She tried to defend me to our parents, but they had already made their choice. This is where Ethan's revenge went from petty sibling rivalry to something deeply disturbing. I met Olivia about 2 years after the disaster with Chloe. By that time, I had practically written off my relationship with Ethan and was trying to move forward with my life. I had found a new job at another company. The old one never really recovered from all of Ethan's sabotage. I had moved into my own apartment on the other side of town, and things were going pretty well for me. Olivia was funny, smart, with that dry sense of humor that matched mine perfectly. She grew up in a small town about an hour from the city and came from a big Irish family where everyone talked at the same time and had an opinion on everything. The exact opposite of my family's passive-aggressive absurdity. We dated for about 1.5 years before I proposed. She said yes before I even finished my sentence. We both had stable jobs and similar life goals. Everything just felt right. Wedding planning was even fun, which everyone told us was rare. Olivia's family welcomed me immediately. For the first time in years, I felt like I was part of a real family again. My parents were also supportive, which surprised me. They seemed genuinely happy I had found someone. Sarah was thrilled for me. She adored Olivia from their first meeting, saying it was obvious how happy we made each other. She helped with the wedding, organized Olivia's bachelorette party, and even stood by my side in my wedding party. Having her support meant everything to me. Ethan, on the other hand, was strangely silent during the entire engagement period. He came to family dinners when I brought Olivia, made polite conversation, and even congratulated us when we announced the wedding date. I should have suspected something. It was way too normal coming from him. But I was happy, you see. I wanted to believe Ethan had finally moved on, found some peace, and decided to let the Chloe story go. The wedding was scheduled for a Saturday in June at a venue about 20 minutes from the city. Nothing too extravagant, maybe 80 people, an outdoor ceremony, and the reception in the same building. Olivia wanted something simple and elegant. Honestly, I would have married her at the courthouse if that's what she wanted. We decided to stay traditional and not see each other the day before the wedding. Olivia stayed at her parents' with her bridesmaids, and I was supposed to participate in a bachelor party organized by my friends. Except I wasn't really in the mood to party. I was nervous, excited, and I just wanted a moment of quiet to reflect on everything. So, instead of going from bar to bar with the guys, I got a room at a hotel near the reception venue. I told everyone I just wanted to relax, watch some TV, and get a good night's sleep before the big day. My friends respected that. They even made sure my phone was off around 9 p.m. because I didn't want any distractions. When I woke up the next morning, got dressed, and left for the wedding venue, it was already all over. I just didn't know it yet. This is the hardest part of this story to write. Even today, years later, thinking back on that day makes me feel sick. I arrived at the wedding venue about 2 hours before the ceremony was scheduled to start. I was in a very good mood, thinking that in a few hours, I would be married to the love of my life. The parking lot should have been my first clue that something was wrong. There were way too many cars for such an early hour, and I could see people standing in small groups, speaking in low voices with that grave tone that usually means something bad has happened. I walked into the hall. The decorations were still up, the flowers too. But there was this atmosphere, I don't even know how to describe it, like I was walking into my own funeral. Olivia's maid of honor, Maria, saw me first. The expression on her face was pure disgust, not sadness, not disappointment, but disgust. She came straight at me and slapped me so hard my ears rang. "How could you do this to her? How could you do this to Olivia?" she screamed. Everyone in the room turned toward us. Olivia's family, my groomsmen, guests who had already arrived. Everyone was looking at me like I was a monster. I had no idea what she was talking about. I asked where Olivia was. I said I had to talk to her, to understand what was happening. Maria burst out laughing, a bitter and angry laugh that gave me goosebumps. "She's gone, you piece of trash. She's gone, and she's never coming back. She knows what you did." That is when Ethan came out of the crowd. My own brother, wearing his groomsman tuxedo, looking like he was attending my execution rather than my wedding, with that satisfied smile on his face. "Sorry, man," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "I didn't want to be the one to tell her, but I couldn't let her marry you without knowing the truth." He took out his phone and started showing photos to people. I couldn't see them from where I was, but I could see the reactions around me. The shock, the disgust, the anger. Whatever Ethan was showing them, it was incredibly convincing. "This is Maya," Ethan announced to the whole room. She came forward because she could no longer live with the guilt. "She has been seeing my brother for 4 months, including last night." A woman stepped forward from the back of the room. Mid-20s, blonde hair, wearing a dress way too elegant for someone supposedly just stopping by to confess an affair. She looked extremely nervous, constantly glancing at Ethan as if waiting for him to tell her what to say next, but she played her role to perfection. "I'm so sorry," she said, and I have to hand it to her. She looked genuinely upset. "I never wanted it to go this far. He told me he was going to call off the wedding, that he was going to leave her for me. When I found out he still intended to get married, I couldn't stay silent anymore. I tried to speak, to explain that I had never seen this woman in my life, but no one wanted to listen to me." Ethan showed messages supposedly exchanged between Maya and me, intimate photos supposed to prove we were together, and even a video he claimed showed her and me the night before. The worst part was seeing my own parents standing there, silent. They didn't defend me. They didn't question Ethan's story. They didn't even look surprised. My mother just shook her head while Ethan explained how disappointed he was to have had to expose his own brother. I kept asking for the alleged proof, demanding someone show me these photos and messages that were supposed to prove I was cheating on Olivia. But Ethan played it perfectly. He said he had already showed everything to Olivia and her family, that they had seen enough, and that there was no reason to humiliate me further by making it all public. Someone suggested calling Olivia, trying to get her to come back so we could sort this out. That is when Ethan dropped the final bomb. She doesn't want to see him. She was very clear about that. She said if he tries to contact her, she would call the police. The room went totally silent after that. Even I didn't know what to say anymore. The woman I was supposed to marry in less than 2 hours thought I was a cheating monster. I stood there in a tuxedo in front of all our friends and families, watching my entire life collapse. The wedding was off. Olivia was gone. Everyone who mattered to me thought I was a liar and a cheater, and my own brother was the one holding the match that had reduced everything to ashes. I didn't even try to fight at that moment. What was the point? No one was going to believe me against Ethan's fabricated evidence. No one was going to take my word against this mystery woman's testimony. The damage was done. I walked out of that venue and drove straight home. I didn't speak to anyone. I didn't explain anything. I didn't even take off my tuxedo. I just sat in my apartment staring at the wall, trying to understand what had just happened. My phone started ringing around dinner time. Olivia's number. For a split second, I thought maybe she had realized this was all a setup, that she wanted to hear my side of the story. I answered on the first ring. "Never contact me again," she said. Her voice was cold, totally different from the woman I had fallen in love with. "If you call me, if you text me, if you come to my house or my work, I will file a police report. It's over forever." She hung up before I could say a word. Then Ethan decided to show up. He arrived at my apartment around midnight, still in his tuxedo, looking like someone who had just won the lottery. I opened the door. He smiled at me. He actually smiled. "So how does it feel?" he asked. That is when something snapped inside me. All those years of petty revenge, all the lies, all the manipulation came back at once. I grabbed him by his shirt collar and slammed him against the hallway wall. "You destroyed my life," I said through gritted teeth. "You destroyed my life for a girl who never wanted you." Ethan laughed while I held him against the wall. "And I'd do it again," he said. "You took everything from me. She was my future, my happiness. So I took yours. Fair trade." I wanted to react physically, to make him confess everything, until he admitted what he had done in front of everyone who had believed his lies. But I knew that was exactly what he wanted, for me to prove I was the unstable person he had described. So I opened the door and shoved him out. He left whistling as if he had just had the best day of his life. Here's the thing. I was an idiot. I should have recorded that conversation, but anger took over. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was seeing red. So I did what seemed like the best solution at that time. I left and I moved on. I spent the next 3 years rebuilding my life, and I largely succeeded. I found a better job. I moved to another city, and things were going pretty well. The only person in my family I stayed in contact with was Sarah. She had moved to Denver for work, but we talked every few weeks. She never believed Ethan's version and kept me updated on the family drama I was missing. According to Sarah, Ethan and Olivia officially got together about 6 months after my destroyed wedding. Yes, you heard right. They moved in together, got married in less than a year, and had a child fairly quickly after that. From the outside, they formed the perfect family. Ethan had gotten everything he wanted, and Olivia seemed happy with her choice. But Sarah saw clearly from the beginning. "He doesn't love her," she told me on one of our calls. "He just loves the fact that he won. As soon as the novelty wears off, this is all going to blow up." And she was right. Ethan wasn't a caring and devoted husband. Once he had her locked down, he practically stopped making an effort. He worked late constantly, skipped family events, forgot birthdays and important dates. It was the classic behavior of someone interested only in the conquest, not the relationship itself. Sarah started receiving strange calls from Olivia, asking her if Ethan's behavior was normal, if he had always been so distant and selfish. Sarah tried to stay neutral at first, but it was becoming harder to ignore the obvious problems in their marriage. Then last month, she called me with news that changed everything. "Everything is falling apart," she told me. "Olivia found out Ethan was cheating on her. She's filing for divorce, and Ethan ran off to who knows where. But you'll never guess who he was cheating on her with. Maya. The same woman who helped frame me at my wedding had been in a relationship with him behind Olivia's back for years, maybe even before my wedding day. The irony was perfect. The same woman Ethan had used to destroy my relationship had been destroying his from the start. But here's where it gets interesting. When Olivia confronted Maya, expecting her to deny everything or at least show a little shame, Maya broke down and confessed everything. Not just the affair, everything. The fake photos, the staged messages, the video, the entire elaborate scheme Ethan had orchestrated to ruin my wedding. Sarah had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. When Olivia called her sobbing to ask for my contact info, Sarah was ready. "I need to see him," Olivia had told Sarah. "I have to apologize. I have to fix this somehow." That is when I knew what I had to do. "I have a plan," I told Sarah. "Are you thinking the same thing I am?" asked Sarah. "I think it's time for justice to be served," I replied. "I'm in," she said immediately. "Just tell me what you want me to do." I asked Sarah to contact Maya through a mutual friend, pretending to be someone who just wanted to understand what happened. We set up a meeting at a coffee shop in Denver, with Sarah pretending she was trying to help Olivia process it all and needed to hear Maya's side. I flew to Denver the following week. Sarah had explained to me precisely how I had to play my role. Compassionate, not accusatory, just a brother trying to understand why his family had fallen apart. When we met Maya, she was in a sorry state. She had visibly cried a lot and seemed not to have slept for days. Guilt was eating her alive. It was written on her face. Sarah was perfect, playing the concerned sister who just wanted to help everyone heal from this tragedy. She asked Maya to tell us exactly what had happened, claiming it would help Olivia understand how everything could have gone so wrong. Maya spilled everything. How Ethan had approached her 8 months before my wedding, offering to pay her $5,000 to help him teach his brother a lesson. How they had staged all the photos and messages over several weeks. How he had coached her on exactly what to say and when. The bomb dropped when she admitted she and Ethan were in an inappropriate relationship during the entire preparation of the trap. "He told me he was going to leave Olivia after a few years anyway," said Maya, now crying. "He said once he proved he could take everything from his brother, he would be done with her too. It was always supposed to be temporary." Sarah kept her talking for over an hour, recording every detail of Ethan's plan. When we left that coffee shop, we had enough evidence to bury him. The next morning, I filed a police report for fraud and conspiracy. I also contacted a lawyer to initiate civil proceedings for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and tortious interference. Apparently, my sabotaged wedding fell into that category. When the detective in charge of my case heard Maya's confession, he actually whistled. "This is one of the most elaborate revenge plans I've ever seen," he said. "Your brother put an enormous amount of energy into destroying your life. The problem was that he was on the run now. His wife said he had emptied their joint bank account and hadn't been home for a week. Ethan knew everything would eventually come out. He had prepared his escape like he had planned everything else. But running only made him look even more guilty. And it gave us time to build a solid case while he was hiding wherever cowards go to hide." The detective issued an arrest warrant for Ethan, while warning me it could take time to find him. While we waited for Ethan to make a mistake, Olivia filed for divorce and obtained emergency custody of their daughter. She also provided additional evidence to support my case. Messages from Ethan, financial statements showing payments to Maya, and even the original fake photos he had shown her. My parents finally called me when they learned about the police investigation. They were devastated, unable to believe their good son was capable of something so calculated and cruel. They begged me to come home, to let them make amends. I told them we would see after Ethan faced justice. Some bridges cannot be rebuilt until the person who burned them has paid the price. I had evidence. I had witnesses. And I had 3 years of rage to push me to go all the way. The hunt for Ethan was just beginning. For months passed since Ethan's disappearance, and let me tell you, the justice system moves slower than the DMV on a Monday morning. But we were very busy building what my lawyer calls the most documented case of sibling revenge he has ever seen. First of all, Maya agreed to cooperate fully with the prosecution in exchange for immunity. A smart choice on her part, because the alternative would have been risking conspiracy charges. It turned out Ethan had paid her far more than the initial $5,000. Over the 8 months spent planning my destruction, he had given her nearly $15,000 in consulting fees to help him perfect their little revenge plot. The financial trail was huge and proved this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision, but a carefully orchestrated campaign. My lawyer, Dave, is an old-school former prosecutor turned defense attorney who has seen it all in his career. When I first showed him Maya's recorded confession, he burst out laughing. "Your brother is either the dumbest criminal I've ever seen, or he thought he was so smart he would never get caught," Dave said. "Either way, he's in serious trouble." The civil procedure moved faster than the criminal case. Since Ethan had fled, the court allowed us to proceed by default, which means we could continue without his physical presence. We asked for damages for loss of income, emotional distress, and punitive damages for the sheer malice of his actions. Then Olivia contacted me directly. "I need to see you," she told me during our first call in years. I agreed to meet her. Sarah came with me for moral support. Olivia looked exhausted. She came with their daughter, Lily. The little girl was quiet, well-behaved, but you could see the confusion in her eyes. I know nothing I say can fix what I did to you. Olivia started, crying before even finishing her sentence. I destroyed your life because of lies, and I'll never forgive myself. She explained how Ethan had manipulated her. I listened to her apologies, and even though I appreciated them, I felt there was something else. Then she continued. I want to know if there's any chance we could try again, she said softly. I know it would take time. I know you'd need to learn to trust me again, but we were so good together before Ethan destroyed everything. I looked at this woman who had once been the love of my life. What we had was destroyed years ago, I said. I know, but please give us a chance. No, Olivia, I said gently. That's in the past now. I've moved on. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I explained to her that it wasn't a question of holding a grudge or an inability to forgive. Some things, once broken, cannot be repaired, no matter how much both people wish they could. Before leaving, I looked at Lily one last time. That innocent child had no idea her father was a sociopath who had destroyed several lives for his own satisfaction. She's going to need stability, I told Olivia. Don't mess that up. Meanwhile, the criminal case continued to advance. The prosecution had brought in digital forensic experts who analyzed Ethan's computer and phone records. They found drafts of the fake text conversations dating back months, and even a folder on his laptop titled Operation Retaliation, with detailed timelines and notes on the plan. Ethan had covered his tracks. He stayed off social media and avoided using credit cards or anything traceable. Police thought he was likely working under the table somewhere, but had no solid leads. The prosecutor in charge of the criminal case, Amanda, explained to me that they were building a case that could send Ethan to prison for up to 10 years if he was found guilty on all counts. This isn't just a simple family conflict, she told me. Your brother committed serious crimes that affected multiple victims over several years. The court takes this kind of systematic harassment very seriously. My parents tried to contact Ethan, hoping to convince him to come home and face the charges. They were still in denial about the magnitude of what he had done, thinking maybe if he apologized and made amends, all this could be worked out. I had to put them in their place. Ethan destroyed my life for his own amusement, I told them. That's not something you apologize your way out of. He's going to go to prison, and he deserves every day he spends there. By the 5th month of the investigation, we had enough evidence to convict him 10 times over. The only problem was finding him, but I knew Ethan better than anyone, and I knew his weaknesses. He was arrogant. He needed to feel superior, and above all, he couldn't resist the urge to brag about his victories. Sooner or later, he would make a mistake. Justice was closing in on him. It was only a question of time. After 7 months, justice was finally served. And let me tell you, the wait was worth it. Ethan was finally arrested 4 weeks ago in Tucson, Arizona, of all places. He was working on a construction site under a fake name, living in a seedy motel, surviving like the pathetic fugitive he had become. What brought him down? His own stupidity, obviously. Apparently, he was drinking in a dive bar and started bragging to strangers about how he had outsmarted everyone. Someone in the bar found him suspicious and called the local police. When they checked his fake ID, it came up as flagged, and that was it, handcuffs on his wrists. Detective Morrison's call was one of the best moments of my life. We got him, he told me. Your brother is in a holding cell in Arizona, and this time he's not going anywhere. They brought him back in handcuffs and shackles. The trial moved quickly once he was back. His public defender tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor refused flat out. Your client had 6 months to turn himself in and take responsibility for his actions, said Amanda. Instead, he chose to run and waste taxpayer money on a manhunt. We're going to trial. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. 2 hours. They came back with guilty verdicts on all counts: conspiracy, fraud, identity theft, harassment, impersonation, and what is called aggravated stalking because the acts spanned several years. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison followed by 5 years of probation. He also ordered Ethan to pay $175,000 in restitution, $75,000 to me for damages, and $100,000 to cover legal fees and the cost of the manhunt. After the sentencing, I did something. I asked to visit Ethan in prison. He picked up the handset on the other side of the glass, and for a minute, we just looked at each other. Then he said what I had been waiting to hear for almost 5 years. I know why you're here. Oh yeah, I replied. Tell me, you want to gloat? You want to see me suffer? I leaned back in my chair and smiled. Actually, Ethan, I don't need to tell you anything. Your life speaks for itself. Ethan's face was turning red, but I wasn't finished. You think you won? I may have lost one thing because of you. Just one. And in exchange, you lost everything. Your wife, your daughter, your career, your freedom, your future. You're going to spend years of your life in prison. I looked him straight in the eyes. Chloe never loved you. Olivia realized who you really were and left you. Your own parents are ashamed of you. And me, I'm living my best life while you rot in a cage. So tell me, brother, who really won? Ethan stared at me, and for the first time in our entire lives, he had nothing to say. I stood up to leave, but I had one last thing to say. Oh, by the way, Ethan, Chloe lives in Seattle now. She's married with 2 kids and looks really happy. I looked her up on social media last week. She probably doesn't even remember your name. I hung up the handset and left Ethan there in his orange jumpsuit, finally understanding that his obsession had cost him everything. Finally, I thought it was over, that I was done with this nightmare. But apparently, the universe wasn't done throwing wrenches in my gears yet. What happened next is so crazy, I still have trouble processing it. After my last meeting with Olivia, I really thought that was the end. We had both said what we had to say, gotten our closure, end of story. I was wrong. Last week, I was working from home quietly when I heard a car door slam in front of my apartment. Then I heard a child crying, which immediately caught my attention. I looked out the window and almost had a heart attack. Olivia's car was parked in my spot, and she was pulling the little girl out of the back seat. The child was crying hysterically, clearly lost, not understanding what was happening, and Olivia looked like she was 5 minutes away from a total nervous breakdown. Before I could even process what I was seeing, Olivia was already walking toward my door, dragging Lily behind her. I know you're in there, she screamed. I can't take it anymore. I opened the door because the neighbors were starting to come out and watch the scene. Barely had I opened it when Olivia pushed past me and forced her way into my apartment, pulling Lily behind her. She's your problem now, said Olivia. And I swear to you, she had completely lost it. I never wanted to be a mother. I only had this child because Ethan wanted a baby, and now he's in prison and I'm stuck with this mess. The little girl looked from one to the other, crying. I stood there in total shock, trying to understand what was happening. Olivia started rambling, explaining that she couldn't handle being a single mother, that the child reminded her too much of Ethan, that she needed to start fresh without any reminders of her old life. Why are you bringing her to my place? I asked. None of this makes sense. Because you're the only good man I know, replied Olivia. Ethan is trash. My father lives on the other side of the country, and I don't trust any of the other men in my life. Olivia, I said, I can't just take your daughter. That's not how it works. She needs her mother. I don't want to be her mother anymore, she screamed, loud enough for the child to start crying even harder. I'm done. I'm moving back in with my sister in California, and I'm not taking her with me. At that moment, I understood that Olivia had completely lost control. I told her she had to leave, that she needed help, that abandoning her child was not a solution to anything. But she was already heading for the door. If you don't take her, I'll leave her at a fire station or I don't know where, she said. At least she'll become someone else's problem. That is when I knew I couldn't let her walk out that door, not with that child. So, I called the police. She tried to leave, but I blocked her way until the officers arrived. When they arrived, the whole situation turned into a nightmare of paperwork, phone calls, and social services intervention. Long story short, Olivia was deemed unfit to care for her daughter and was placed under psychiatric evaluation. The child needed a place to go while they determined a long-term solution. Since I was the only stable adult present with a connection to the situation, and since my parents testified in my favor when social services contacted them, I was granted temporary emergency custody while they work on a permanent solution. That was 2 weeks ago. Lily is still here. My parents help me a lot. They come every day. Olivia is in a psychiatric care facility and is not allowed to make decisions regarding Lily for the moment. Lily has been through hell. Her father abandoned her. Her mother tried to get rid of her, and now she lives with someone she barely knows in a totally unfamiliar place. But she's stronger than she looks. She started sleeping through the night, and yesterday, she asked me if she could help me make pancakes. I don't know what will happen in the long run, but we have contacted Olivia's parents, and there is talk of them applying for permanent custody since they are biological family and have the stability necessary to care for her. The only thing I'm sure of is that Lily deserves better than the family she was born into. Whether it's me, my parents, or Olivia's parents, she will have it. That is a promise. Comment. What really stands out to me in stories like this isn't just the drama. It's the quiet strength someone finds after their world has been turned upside down. You can't control other people's actions, but you always have a choice in how you respond. Choosing to walk away and rebuild with integrity is a powerful act of self-respect. Learning to set firm, healthy boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary to protect your peace and well-being. And through it all, the greatest victory is holding on to your capacity for kindness. Your character is defined by how you treat others, especially when you have every reason not to be kind. I hope this story inspires you to choose your peace, value your integrity, and be a source of stability in a chaotic world. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.